When you get triggered in love or relationships, it may feel like your emotions take over your whole body and even make you act out of character. You may tell yourself, I know I shouldn't text the person again, and yet you can't help yourself. Or maybe you erupt with anger or harsh words and then think after the fact, why did I behave that way? There's one really powerful exercise that can instantly calm your relationship anxiety, and it only takes a few short seconds or at most maybe a minute. And in today's video, I am going to break down why fearful avoidant attachment styles and anxious attachment partners often both tend to get hijacked by their emotions, and how a powerful somatic exercise can bring you back into a space of regulation and peace. But in order to do so and get into the exercise, I have to take you through 3 important points to properly understand, and then we'll do the exercise itself. Here is the first thing to note. When you are triggered, your nervous system essentially flips into survival mode. It goes from parasympathetic, rest and digest mode, where we experience cellular healing and a sense of inner peace a lot more frequently, into sympathetic nervous system mode, that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And fawn is essentially that people-pleasing mode. Now, in that particular moment in time where your nervous system gets hijacked, what's actually happening the moment before your nervous system gets hijacked is you have a perception from your own conditioning. So maybe this fear of being abandoned or seen as not good enough, or this idea that you're disrespected. You perceive something through your own conditioning, and that triggers off an emotional response that we have to upregulate to essentially prepare to deal with the threat before us. But in the moment that your trigger or triggering perception goes off, that then solicits that emotional reaction, you are possessed by your emotions, okay? And I don't want you to take that lightly. Seriously, when I think of people in really intense emotional reactions, and trust me, I used to spend a lot of time there when I was a fearful avoidant, you think of those like horror movies, those scary movies where somebody gets possessed by the demon. Movies, by the way, that I'll only ever have seen trailers for, because movies like that scare me. But people get possessed by their emotions, right? And then they act out of character, say things they don't mean, get all angry, and then the emotion eventually subsides. And then they're thinking, oh my gosh, why did I behave that way? Who was I when I did that? I can't believe I acted that way. Just like somebody might actually be possessed by anything else. Now, of course, that's sort of a play on words, and I'm just kidding. But truly, there is an element of people being possessed by their emotions. Now, here's something really powerful, and you have to understand this in order to start experiencing the shift out of your emotions taking you over. There is a difference if you want to be able to come back to yourself while in a heightened emotional state. There is a difference between witnessing something versus being possessed by it. The moment you witness something, you can't be possessed by it. And I'll show you. Let's say I pick up this pen and I'm witnessing the pen. I'm looking at the pen. And the moment I look at the pen, I'm obviously separate from the pen. Because if I didn't have an ability to witness, it's like I'm behind the pen, right? Me as the witness is separate from the pen in order to be able to see it. Now, when something takes us over, we lose our ability to witness it in the moment because we become it. And this is actually one of the foundations of mindfulness. There's even a neuroscience element to this, which we'll get into in a few moments. But the foundation of mindfulness is the ability to observe and go into the seat of witnessing consciousness without reacting. Now, there's a lot of different spiritual traditions that talk about this, but there's even a study that was done where researchers took participants and they put them into fMRI scanners, and they had them actually recall times that they felt really triggered by things. And what they found is in the brain imaging, when looking at the brain from the top down, we essentially have the neocortex, which has regions like the prefrontal cortex, then the limbic system, and then the reptilian brain, which is that most primitive reactive version of ourselves. And when participants recalled really triggering events, they found a lot of the brain activity actually drain out of the neocortex regions, sort of our higher thinking self in a sense, right? Our logical, rational, analytical self, and into the reptilian brain, becoming more reactive and triggering off emotions that then stimulated sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. And as they watched this brain activity happen there, they then asked participants to witness what their emotions felt like inside of the body. And this is a form of what is called somatic processing, because soma means of the body. Somatic processing means the ability to witness our emotions in the body. In fact, your emotions are only ever a reflection of the mind appearing within the body. Okay. So if you look at, for example, the emotion of sadness, you may feel sadness as pressure in your throat or pressure behind your eyes or a hollowness in your torso. Anger may feel like heat in your upper chest and cool coming down your arms and a tensing of your jaw or upper back muscles and shoulders. You may even find yourself clenching your fists. So all emotions simply exist as somatic sensations within the body. And researchers found when they had participants stop recalling the triggering event and instead go into witnessing their emotions and describing the sensations in the body, all of a sudden, all of this brain activity lit back up in the neocortex and prefrontal cortex regions of the brain, bringing them back to the more rational, essentially higher thinking version of themselves. And this ancient wisdom has been around for a very long time. In fact, in Hinduism, there is something known as the witness, referred to as Sakshi. And in yoga philosophy, Sakshi is the pure witness, essentially the part of you that observes your thoughts, sensations, and emotions without judgment. This principle teaches you that your essence, or who you truly are, is not the mind itself and all of the thoughts that are coming forth, but instead the awareness behind the mind. And when we are rooted in that, we are truly being with ourselves for maybe one of the very first times. Buddhists often talk about this meditation on emptiness, describing that stillness arises when one sees their thoughts and sensations they're experiencing as impermanent, like clouds passing through the sky. And in Vipassana and Zen, cultivating awareness of the empty nature of thoughts allows you to rest in that pure presence or pure witnessing consciousness. Even in Christianity, in Psalm 46, there's a quote that says, "Be still and know that I am God." And this principle emphasizes surrender through stillness. It suggests that the ability to be very present with one's own body and mind opens up a direct channel to acceptance and peace. And in the Tao, the concept of wu wei means effortless action or non-doing. And it's the art of flowing with life and the ability to be present with what that means within you, often actually being nurtured first and foremost through stillness and self-connection. So I want you to understand so far, before we dive into this actual exercise, that this ability to cultivate somatic processing by being the witness of our own emotions and tapping into what that experience is like in our own body is also one of the ultimate forms of self-love. Not only does it control and help regulate our nervous system and emotional reactions, and again, I am going to lay out a 3-step exercise for you in just a moment for how to get really good at this in real time so that you can come out of that triggering event. But also in doing this, it is the opposite of a form of dissociation. A lot of people will say, well, if I start witnessing and getting really present and, observing my thoughts and emotions and what they feel like in my body, am I not dissociating or distracting myself from the thing at hand? And in fact, it is the absolute opposite. Look at how you normally tend to react when you're triggered. You either get possessed by your emotions and they act through you, and you cope by raising your voice or saying harsh things or texting and calling a whole bunch in a row or shutting down or pushing somebody away. You either react through actual reactivity, or you may even try to numb or avoid your own emotions through distractions, through suppressions like drinking wine or beer or using substances or television or social media to literally disconnect from your own inner feelings. So the ability to somatically process does the exact opposite. It puts you into truest relationship with yourself by putting you in that witnessing seat and keeping you actually out of dissociation and in relationship to your own body. Before I actually tell you the exercise, I will let you know if you want to dive deep into somatic processing and nervous system regulation, I have a full course you can check out for free. And I'll put a link to that down below. That also comes with a free bonus course you get to keep for life, all about key pillars to building a secure relationship if you don't know what one looks like. So they're both free and you can check it out down below. So here's the exercise, okay? The next time you get triggered or frustrated about something, whether you're feeling anxious about somebody pulling away from you or angry that somebody isn't, behaving behaving in a way that you expect or would hope, or maybe frustrated that your needs aren't being met, whatever it might be, I want you to divest from the story that you're telling yourself, that same old story of, I can't believe they're doing this, or they don't respect me, or that meaning that you are essentially projecting onto the situation. I want you to divest from that, get out of your head and into your body. And this starts with number one, noticing the sensations that are occurring within your body. And that is just like what we talked about in that fMRI scanner, right? With those participants, where they actually learn to witness their emotions and the sensations. It's a form of somatic processing and essentially mindfulness. And all of a sudden, that actually re-stimulated activity in the prefrontal cortex regions. So, number one, I want you to just notice the sensations in your body and try to notice what they actually feel like. And step two, I want you to practice labeling what the emotion is that you're feeling. Okay, so you're getting in touch with it. So you may say, okay, I feel frustration, and frustration feels like a tightening and subtle heat in my chest and knots in my stomach. Or I feel like anxiety, and that feels like so many butterflies in my stomach and this sort of racing heart and nervous energy pulsating through my arms and shoulders. Maybe you say sadness and it's pressure in your throat or behind your eyes, or that hollow, heavy feeling in your torso. I want you to just notice what is there. Then try to label what that emotion is. Okay, so notice the sensations first, anchor in there. And then step two, notice what the actual emotion is. Am I feeling anxious, angry, frustrated, hurt, sad, lonely, right? Try to just notice the actual emotion. Step three, I want you to ask yourself when you've actually had a moment to truly sit with the emotions and be fully present, not with the stories you're telling yourself, but instead with the sensations you're experiencing in your body. I want you to then ask yourself, what do I need in order to feel relief right now? What would make me feel loved or supported or protected? And really sit with that for a second. Visualize what that outcome would be. And step four, I want you to ask yourself, how can I give this in the relationship to myself? This is you actually not only attuning to your own inner child and inner self through that ability to sit in witnessing consciousness or that seat of mindfulness, but you are stimulating healthy brain activity back in your neocortex and catering to the wounded aspect within you, the unmet need that is there, so that you can show up and give that to yourself. And as a result, feel a tremendous amount of healing. Again, if you want to go much deeper into this, you can dive much deeper into our somatic processing and nervous system regulation course. But this is an exercise that if you are anxiously attached or fearful avoidant, you can end these cycles you're seeing in your life through practicing this, that will stop the spiraling, the chasing, the withdrawing, the self-sabotaging, the eruptions, the anger, the frustration, the criticism. Truly, if you can get really good at this first before you act in the external world, or before you go back into all of those stories and concepts in your conditioning that are competing for your attention, this will be something that has the power to change outcomes in your life, especially when you do it consistently. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you don't want to miss any daily videos, please consider subscribing down below, liking this video, sharing it with somebody who might benefit. And you can always return or revisit this video if you are feeling triggered or frustrated. And hopefully it will be a beautiful resource for you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.